If it's well, I got a couple of special guests here. I got Mr. Ronnie York and Mr. Steve. So, what are we going to do tonight? And we got Pablo. Pablo's with us too. Pablo had to come along for the ride. But everybody, I hope you guys enjoy this. We are going over the First Amendment, and all I got to say is maybe, just maybe, you'll learn what the First Amendment, what rights we actually have in it. We will get to that after we do the intro, but we will find out very soon what rights are in the First Amendment. And before I leave, guys, you don't say nothing, but how many rights are in the First Amendment? Let's
8.
You guys can think about that while we are away for a moment. People are always asking me, why am I so angry? The reason is because the country that I love is destroying itself from within. That's why I am. The angry conservative. All right, I have to do this. I warned them, but Ronnie and Steve, shut the heck up.
That was too easy for you.
That was way too easy for me.
I ain't saying that.
They're not saying no. And I will say this now. Yes, we are going over the First Amendment, but on my channel, in my StreamYards, they don't have First Amendment rights. Just saying. I'm a dictator over here sometimes.
Dictator all the damn time. On your channel or not.
All right. I asked before we went to the intro, how many rights does the First Amendment actually have? Anyone in the audience know how many rights are in that very First Amendment?
We've already cheated.
Yeah, we've already cheated. We already knew that.
That'd be hard to do through the internet, though. How would that work? I would just ruin my camera if I did that.
It'd be shocking.
He's pulling something tonight. Nope. Actions, I'm not pulling anything. So,
Justin,
Steve, how many rights are in the First Amendment?
It's like Bill Cosby says, I have 5 children. You can count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
There could be 5
Kind
or it
of
could be
6.
6. It
Kind
could
of
be
6,
6.
depending how you look at it, yeah. But I always say
So,
5.
Ronnie, would you pleasure everyone in the audience with the actual reading of that First Amendment?
I'll try it.
Try it.
Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances, which is what, by the way, As If had a big problem with the other night. If y'all remember.
The redress of grievances?
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of states went against that. Just saying, a lot of states went against that First Amendment during 2020.
Oh, yeah.
Blackwatch, I didn't ask for your opinion. If I wanted your opinion, I would give it to you. All right.
I'm so used to being on mine. I'm like clicking on these, and it's like, oh, this isn't mine.
You can't.
I know. Me too, Steve.
But yeah, I'm the one in control here.
Yes,
now that's a heck of a question. What are free speech zones? That is a heck of a question. But we do get a few videos that we're going to go over that actually talks about this First Amendment. Because, like the founder said, if we don't have the First Amendment, the first 2 amendments, nothing else is worth a crap anymore.
Well, yeah, you got the First Amendment, and that's why you have the Second Amendment.
And you got
once
the Second
those are
Amendment.
gone, yeah, it's just
First, all the rest of them, really.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Hoot. Yeah, Dakota earlier said she got 3 notifications all at once from each one of us. So hey, maybe YouTube's being nice and actually sending out notifications on my channel. What the heck?
Hey, on everybody's channels, they undoubtedly made a mistake on mine anyway. They don't like doing that.
And AC, real quick, my good friend Axiom that's in chat, he's really well educated on all this stuff too. So just want to let you know. If there's something we don't know, that's who I ask. That's who I go to. So.
Oh, and we will talk about this here in a little bit. That will be talked about here in a little bit. Most people and all of us know this to be, I will say this now, Steve and Ronnie, we're on a social media platform. We're on a lot of social media platforms right now. We're on YouTube, we're on Rumble. Does social media actually have to give us our First Amendment rights?
Absolutely not. No.
They're private companies.
Yeah, I was going to say it depends if it's a private establishment.
But people will say the Constitution is not supposed to limit private businesses. The Constitution limits what the government can do against us. So that's why it says in the First Amendment that they cannot make the Congress, because it does not say anything else. But we will get this started. We got 3 videos. I got Kwan Academy on the First Amendment. I got the National Constitution Center, and I got hip pews with the Constitution for Dummies, which I think all three of us would qualify as dummies up here. Just saying. I don't know.
You're calling it dummy, you dummy.
Yeah. Now that one would be an interesting one.
I thought Too Tall would want an apple fritter.
An apple fritter.
Require other people to shut up.
So,
I don't know.
Hi, this is
why
Kim
that
from
did
Khan
that.
Academy, and today I'm learning more about the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. The First Amendment is one of the most important amendments to the Constitution, if not the most important. It reads, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. To learn more about the First Amendment, I talked to two experts. Erwin Chemerinsky is the Jesse H. Choper Distinguished Professor of Law and Dean of Berkeley Law. Michael McConnell is the Director of the Constitutional Law Center at Stanford Law School and a Senior Fellow at the Hoover Institution. Professor Chemerinsky, there's a lot going on in the First Amendment. Can you tell us a little bit more about why the framers chose to protect these rights in particular?
The historical background of the First Amendment of the Constitution shows why the framers wanted to be sure that all of the liberties in the First Amendment were safeguarded. Let's focus on freedom of speech and freedom of the press. In England, there was, after the printing press developed, licensing, so that anyone who wanted to be able to publish anything needed to have a license from the government. Such licensing was seen to be inconsistent with freedom of speech, freedom of the press, for that matter, freedom of thought, freedom of inquiry.
Interesting. Okay, so there are a lot of essential freedoms that are packed into this First Amendment, so much that it's almost amazing that we're going to attempt to talk about them all in one video. But if we dial into freedom of speech, Professor McConnell, what is freedom of speech? Does that encompass some things and not others?
Well, freedom of speech was actually less important to the framers than the freedom with which.
Think about what he just said. Freedom of speech wasn't that high up on the totem pole.
Well, they probably
Think
figured
about
that people were going to talk regardless, so it didn't matter whether they put it in there or not at the time. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yes.
But think about that. Out of all the ones that were read earlier, which one you think was the most important one to them?
I didn't hear them read but one. I mean, they read.
Which one do you think was the most important out of the ones in the First Amendment? Which one was the most important one?
That's a good question to them. Religion?
I
Nope.
would have to say.
No.
That's what I would have guessed.
Freedom of the press was the most important one out of all of them. And they'll get into that. Because the freedom of the press would actually mean people would be able to know what's actually going on.
It should have been what Queen Bee said there, freedom to bear arms, because without that, I mean, you have none of them.
And you're right about that. If we don't have the Second Amendment, but there's reasons behind why they put the 5 or 6, however you decide to say it, in the First and then the Second Amendment. But we'll get into that one. Might be next week.
It was coupled, which is the freedom of the press. And the reason for this is that speech that can reach large audiences is much more important to the individual, but also dangerous to the state than mere speech. When you speak, only those people within hearing range can hear you. But when you are able to use Gutenberg's fantastic new technology to publish your sentiments and distribute them widely, maybe even over the entire country or across the Atlantic and reaching hundreds and thousands of people. Now that is powerful. And no wonder. So you think about how the American Revolution was won. This required spreading the word. It required gaining converts and telling people what their grievances were. To a very great extent, this was done through the mechanism of the printing press.
When you ask the question of what's freedom of speech, there's implicit within it the issue of what do we mean by speech? Ultimately, the answer to your question is that the First Amendment in protecting speech broadly safeguards a right to express one's ideas, but it's not absolute. The government can restrict expression if there's a compelling interest.
Interesting. Can you say more about that?
The Supreme
Think about that, people. The government can actually restrict what we say to some extent. Steve, would you like that if that would happen to you? I can't hear you. You're muted.
Would I like that?
Yeah. If the government told you certain things you can and cannot say.
Well, if I did, I wouldn't have moved to Hawaii. I would have moved to North Korea. So,
Yeah, very true. Very true.
but Hawaii's still America, and I still have that freedom. So, and the freedom to have pineapple on it.
Yeah,
Each their
freedom
own,
to
man.
have
I don't
pineapple
agree
on
with
their
that.
pizza.
I don't agree with the pineapple on the pizza, but hey, to each their own.
Pineapple does not belong on pizza. Pineapple does not belong on pizza. Bacon, sausage, pepperoni, green peppers, onions, that belongs on a pizza. Pineapple,
And
no.
anchovies. And anchovies.
No anchovies. No anchovies. Anchovies, no.
Well, myself, I'm not crazy about pizza, so I could care less one way or the other about pizza, about pineapple or pizza. So that's
there you go.
Actually, my main thing for it is because I'm allergic. So
You're allergic to pineapples?
I'm allergic to fruits and vegetables.
It's a heck of a place to, it's a terrible place to be in. Living in Hawaii and you're allergic to fruit.
I'm telling you, man, I can't.
Citrus. My goodness.
What really sucks is I love guacamole, but I can only have one bite before my throat starts getting all scratchy and swelling up. So.
Let's get back to this because Ronnie is going live at 9 here in a little over 2 hours.
The Supreme Court always has been clear that freedom of speech is not absolute. The court has said that there are certain categories of speech that are unprotected by the First Amendment. Incitement of illegal activity is a category of unprotected speech. The court has said this requires showing that the speech was directed at causing imminent illegal activity, and there was a substantial likelihood of imminent illegal activity. Another example, obscenity is unprotected by the First Amendment. The court struggled for years with trying to define what is obscenity. Maybe the low point in that is when Justice Potter Stewart said, I can't define it, but I know it when I see it. There are also these categories of speech where the government can prohibit and even punish the expression.
That's where most of the limitations on the freedom of speech and of the press come from, is in order to make sure that we don't hurt other people's rights through the use of our own. So an example of that, the government can prohibit speech which incites violence against someone. So if you're making a speech and calling upon the crowd to attack somebody's house or their person, that can be punished and prevented as an incitement to violence. And you can see how that follows from the logical idea of freedom of speech being a natural right and therefore limited by the rights of other people.
So let's turn our attention.
1 minute with this one. I knew someone would say this. I knew someone would bring this one Hoot, you know it is actually legal to yell fire in a crowded theater, even if there isn't one, and you will not get criminally charged. It is actually legal for you to yell fire in a crowded theater and not get criminally charged. But civilly, you can get sued out of your butt. And that's what most people don't understand. And I think they go, hey, Blackwatch, you know I always read the chat.
Hey, what is that insinuating?
Nothing. I didn't say any. I didn't say no names now, did I?
Never read the chat.
I didn't. I didn't say it. I didn't say it. You're putting words in my mouth.
No, not you. Blackwatch. Blackwatch said it like, well, at least AC reads the chat. Like, anyway, I'm just joking.
I know. Let's
If someone gets hurt, you're reliable.
Yep. You would actually, they would actually be allowed to sue you, but you would not get criminally charged for doing it. And that's what most people do not understand. You can actually do it, not get criminally charged, but if someone or a group of people get hurt, believe me, you're going to be paying the rest of your life. Just saying.
Toward the freedom of religion part of the First Amendment. So the first thing that the amendment says is about establishment. So what does this establishment clause prevent?
What? I got a question. What? Why did they say that the United States wouldn't have an established religion? Does anyone know? Anyone up here or anyone in the chat?
Well, we'll give the chat a chance to answer first. I mean, I have an idea. Hey, Rich Runner.
I don't.
But I think they did it that way so that that one particular religion couldn't take over the country, by the force of their religion. Tell me if that's wrong, AC. Probably is.
It is wrong. Actually, it was because of the Church of England when they came over here, when the founding fathers, the reason they left England and came to the new land was because they were getting persecuted for their religious beliefs. Because if you wasn't in the Church of England, you went to jail. If you did not belong to the Church of England, you were into jail and you could not be in politics.
Well, I wouldn't mind not being in politics. I just wouldn't want to go to jail. But,
where's it at? Yeah. But that is...
Hey, there's As If. What's good, As If?
Tennessee. Hey, As If.
What's up, As If? Now, As If was I think it was As If having a problem with the, what was I saying a while ago? They had one had a problem with the law anyway. Yeah, I forgot now what it was. We had to get to the one that was talking about a while ago.
But let's continue. The establishment of religion.
And
The language of the First Amendment is important. It says that Congress may make no law respecting the establishment of religion. Since 1947, the Supreme Court has said that it also applies to state and local governments. And the Supreme Court has said this means that the government cannot act with the purpose of advancing religion.
To the founders, this was a very clear legal concept, namely it was the established Church of England. In the statute books, in the law, the Church of England was referred to as, and I quote, the church by law established. And what did it mean to be established? First of all, it meant that the doctrines of the church, the 39 articles of faith of the Church of England, were voted upon by Parliament. So the doctrines, the liturgy, the text were all adopted by law. The established church was the government's church, and it could be used, and from time to time was used, as an instrument of government or as an instrument of politics. And this is a way in which the government is able to have a powerful influence on the way in which values and opinions are inculcated. It's one of the most important ideas of the established church, especially in the 18th century, was to teach that there's actually a religious obligation to obey the law and to recognize the king as the supreme leader in matters of both church and state. And the framers' experience with this was extremely powerful.
That's because the framers were aware of the religious persecution that had gone on in other countries. They were aware of the evils that occur when the government becomes aligned with a particular religion.
The principal reason why many of the colonists had come to these shores to begin with was to escape the oppressions of the established Church of England back home and to come to a place where they would be able to exercise the freedom of religion for themselves. And the main opponents of this.
What did I just say? Not even 2 minutes ago? Many colonists came to North America to escape the Church of England.
I still think I was right because the King of England had he was the boss of the church and the country. So the framers didn't want one church, making them, they'd be equal to it, I guess, is what way you say it. So I'm still but partly right.
You're partly right, but you're partly wrong. So you can't have it both ways. And Steve's over there looking all serious. And Steve is all over there like, what the hell are you two talking about? Or, Steve, I got a question. Should I just give up because he is 198 years old?
Sometimes, you just got to roll with it. I'm just paying attention because, like I said a second ago, it said to obey. So I'm going to obey.
But I love that I have these two guys on here because they are good people, and and this is just my opinion, I wish we could actually have First Amendment rights on these platforms, because that would make it a lot easier for all of us to understand the rules. But YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, all of them are private companies. So the Constitution is to limit the government, not for private businesses. Just saying.
Well, I think it stinks regardless of how you want to put it, because this country is supposed to have free speech. And I don't care if it's what other companies have it in there? If you go to work for a company tomorrow, they're going to say, hey, we're taking your free speech away for you to work here. Let's say you went to work for Kroger or something, whoever. They wouldn't take away your free speech. They did it on these because they wanted to be able to control what we say, and that's exactly what they do with it, which I definitely don't agree with. Never will.
And you don't think that the government has anything to do with these social media platforms? Like they don't have any.
I'm not. Hey, Steve, let's stay. I know where that would go, but let's stay on topic. We already know the government, but Ronnie from Blackwatch, and this is from Tennessee.
Thank you, Ridge Runner.
Yes, we are talking about serious things with the First Amendment, but we have to have a little bit. We're allowed to have a little bit of fun. So let's continue with this.
Established church were not anti-Christian or anti-religious people. They were the most religious people, and their view was the government should stay out of our church, that we will decide what we believe for ourselves. We will control our own church. We will write our own liturgy. We'll decide what version of the Bible we're going to use. We'll choose our own ministers. Thank you very much, government. Stay out of it. Leave us free to practice our religion without having this kind of an establishment.
So, for instance, a county in Kentucky required that the 10 Commandments be posted in all county buildings. The Supreme Court said the 10 Commandments are religious scripture. There's no secular purpose for having the 10 Commandments posted in county buildings. The court declared it unconstitutional. The Supreme Court has said the government can't act where the primary effect is to advance or to inhibit religion. So, for example, there can't be prayer in public schools. Even voluntary prayer in public schools is impermissible, because the court has said that the primary effect of having prayer in public schools is to advance religion. The court has explained that children will inevitably feel pressure to participate, and this coercion violates the Constitution.
So the First Amendment then prevents that kind of intermingling of the government and the church. This is, I guess, the key idea of separation.
Actually, because of that First Amendment, it doesn't actually say that a Christian can't take their faith, or any person that's religious, Muslim, Buddhist, whatever, with them into Congress. There actually isn't a separation, but the Supreme Court has decided that you can't have certain things within.
Well, you know what? I think that there should be a freedom. There should not be a freedom of religion, is what I'm trying to say. Because when you do that, that opens the door wide open to Satan and his, people, celebrating him, worshiping him. But about these kids now and everything that they're doing with the kids in school is just an absolute outrage as far as I'm concerned. They can worship Satan all they want to and anything else, and that's fine. But they can't worship the God that they should worship. It's just absolutely stinks.
But yeah, I understand where you're coming from, but people should have their right to choose whatever they want. And that I will always stand for that. But let's continue. We're about halfway through this video.
I won't. Not when it comes to Satan worship. No way would I.
But we also know what the Bible says, but we're not getting into the Bible tonight.
Oh, come on.
Between church and state. But it also says that the Congress shall make no law prohibiting the free exercise of religion. So what does that mean?
Free exercise of religion was the right to practice your own religion. It didn't keep the government from setting up a church, but it did keep the government from requiring you to attend that church, maybe even to contribute to the church, but also kept the government from preventing you from worshiping elsewhere. So the Establishment Clause, by and large, prevents the government from forcing people to participate in religion, and the Free Exercise Clause, by and large, prohibits the government from preventing people from practicing their religion. Those two things work together to enable everyone to worship God in accordance with their own conscience.
Interesting. All right, so we mentioned a little bit about freedom of the press, but there are two other aspects of the First Amendment: the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. So, what is included with the right to peaceably assemble? Are there any situations where that might be restricted?
The Supreme Court has said that under freedom of speech, there's a right to use government property for speech purposes. This is also something that entails the freedom of assembly. And the Supreme Court has said that there's certain government properties that the government is required to make available for speech. Sidewalks in parks. There's other places where the government has more latitude to regulating speech. School facilities, evenings and weekends. There's places where the government can close entirely to speech. Military bases, areas outside prisons and jails. All of these cases could have been litigated under freedom of assembly. Some of the earlier cases explicitly mentioned freedom of assembly. The subsequent cases combine freedom of assembly into the protection of freedom of speech.
I guess that makes sense. But what about something like a march, for example, that might, say, block traffic? That's perhaps a clear case when there is this tension between freedom of speech and assembly and, say, public safety if they're blocking, say, an ambulance. How do you resolve that tension?
Sometime in roughly the 1970s, the court.
How would you guys handle that if you were, let's say you are an EMT and you were driving an ambulance with a person that had a heart attack? How would you solve if you see the view that we have in front of us?
Well, I know how I solve it. Steve, you want to go first?
I take the back road.
You take the back.
You know what I do? I'd have about 6 more ambulances following behind me, and or more, and I'd just run over all them people, and they could pick up whoever got hurt, take them to the hospital.
Why ain't I surprised he would do something like that?
No, I would actually do what Steve said.
You know what I would do? You know what I would do? I would just call for a chopper. If the person is bad enough, just call for a chopper, let the chopper, and then try to get back to the station when you can. That's what I would do.
Yeah, but
and hey, ZXL.
Hey, ZXL, aloha.
But
yeah, as long as they're peacefully protesting, not like in 2020 where they're burning everything down and flipping cars, then you go Ronnie's way and just,
Darn right.
Yeah.
There you go. Good.
If they're peacefully protesting.
I tell you what, I got to agree with what Axiom said a while ago when he said, talking about the framers of the Constitution, the way they wrote it, meant exactly the way they wrote it, because I think what he's saying is because the way they wrote it was for the way it is right now. They wrote it for the Masons and all that. Didn't write it for us. That's why there's freedom of press and all that. If I understood it right. There it is right there.
Is that the comment you were looking for?
Yes, sir.
Axiom also said newspapermen, generals, CEOs. Yep, there you go.
And this is why I love having these guys up here. I know they don't have all the controls to my StreamYard, but we can bring up different. But this is why it's so important we actually know these, because they do not want us to know them. Our government does not want younger people to know these rights. That's why I want to teach this.
But I'm wondering, AC, is that if what Axiom is saying, it sounds to me like, is that these rules and everything were not wrote for us, any of us. They were wrote for only for the rich people, the elite, That's the way I'm getting what he's saying now. Maybe I'm misunderstanding, but
you're getting it right.
Court began using a quite different way of looking at the free speech question, in which they said that laws which regulate or prohibit speech on the basis of the content of the speech are, generally speaking, unconstitutional, absent a very important governmental purpose. but that laws that are content neutral and regulate speech on the basis of its time, place, or manner are permitted. So the basic idea here is that government has regulatory authority over speech, but not over what you say, but just over when you say it, where you say it, how you say it.
All right, so the last thing in the First Amendment is the phrase petitioning the government for a redress of grievances, that Congress shall make no law abridging that freedom. What does this mean? How would one petition the government for a redress of grievances?
There are, of course, many ways that people can petition government for redress of grievances. It's the ability to go and testify before a legislative body. It's the ability to communicate with one's legislators or representatives about change. It's basically the ability to go to the government and ask it to change its policy. There are relatively few cases just about the right to petition government for redress of grievances. Again, I think the reason for that is it's been so subsumed into the protection of freedom of speech. Everything one would do by way of petitioning government for redress of grievances is through speech and expression. And so the larger protection of speech and expression has meant that the court hasn't needed to focus so much on this particular right.
Is there anything that you feel people commonly misunderstand about the First Amendment, what it encompasses and what it does not?
One of the most important misunderstandings about the First Amendment is people fail to realize that it, like all rights in the Constitution, apply only to the government. Before I took my current job, I was a professor at Duke University in Durham, North Carolina. Duke is a private university. If while I was there, I had criticized the president of the university, and he would order me fired, I could not have sued him or Duke University for violating my free speech rights. The First Amendment doesn't apply because it's a private university. But now I'm at the University of California, a state university. If I were to give a speech criticizing the president of the university or the chancellor of my campus, and I was to be fired for doing that, I could sue. I would sue. Since this is a public university, the First Amendment applies.
So I think the really dangerous thing in our times is that many people believe that they have some kind of a right not to hear opinions that they find offensive. Certainly, college campuses are filled with controversies of this sort. You know, this is something that our Constitution was designed to prevent. Free speech can inflict offense. Sometimes it can be hurtful and insulting, but we as a nation have decided that it is better to put up with that so that we can all be free to express ourselves, to criticize the government, to urge the religious and scientific and artistic ideas that we have, and that it's more important for all of us to be able to do that than it is to be able to retreat to safe spaces and require other people to shut up.
So we've learned that the rights protected in the First Amendment derive from the historical context of restricted speech, press, and religion in Europe that the framers wished to avoid in the United States. Freedom of religion includes both the freedom not to participate in religion and the freedom to practice whichever religion you choose. Freedom of speech extends to all forms of freedom of expression, not just words, but there are limits to what counts as free speech. To learn more about the First Amendment, visit the National Constitution Center's Interactive Constitution and Khan Academy's resources on U.S. government and politics.
What do you guys think about that First Amendment?
Well, I think the First Amendment is the whole entire amendment. Everything in it is well needed. But you know what, my mind is really on right now is I'm trying to separate what Axiom says from what I've always thought, and I hadn't done it yet. So I'm thinking about it. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. And Axiom, there's reasons why I play the videos I play. There's reasons behind all this. We're not gonna actually do the second one because that one's about 14-15 minutes, but we are going to do Mr. Hip Hughes. Mr. Hip Hughes is, I love doing this guy because he makes it fun. He actually makes this a little bit of fun, and it's Constitution for Dummies. I think everyone up here is a dummy, including myself. I will call myself a dummy.
No, there's a small like book or pamphlet or whatever it's called, Constitution for Dummies, and I think everybody should have one. Everybody.
That is a very, and yes, people, you get the Constitution for Dummies. Get yourself an actual small print of the Constitution, because there's pamphlets everywhere online. You can get them for free. There are so much that you need to learn. There's reasons why I teach what I teach. Because if we know how to beat them at their own damn game, there's really nothing they can do. Because we're at 45 minutes, and I try to keep these right around an hour so people don't actually get bored of it.
I agree with Mr. B. I agree with Mr. B. I just had to say that.
I agree in that too. I agree too, Mr. B. Certainly do.
Yep.
And AC, let me ask you something. How could people possibly get bored with three guys that is as handsome and suave and well-spoken as us? How?
We could go for 6 hours and still have 30 plus people watching.
Of course.
But Steve, you're doing karaoke. What do you expect? I'm trying to get people to remember this stuff. I don't want to get.
Well, I see. You know what? That's what you do then. If you do like a 2 or 3 hour show, then you go back and then you clip the important parts and make a separate video that's only like maybe 20, 30 minutes. And then you can either go watch the whole 3 hours or you can watch the separate, But regardless of karaoke, me and Ronnie do a show like once in a while. It's like, hey, Steve and Ronnie show's back. We want to do karaoke though. We'll talk for 3-4 hours, 5. About anything.
I'll tell you what, it's hard to keep Steve from doing karaoke. I mean, it's just in his blood now.
That's true. It's like politics. Karaoke always comes up.
Hey, we could ask a doll to come on here if she was around right now. 3 guys and a doll.
Oh.
3 guys and no doll.
Hey, I'm always open to dolls. Female dolls.
But we're gonna do Mr. Hip Hughes. He has the Constitution for Dummies. I love this guy. He makes it. Steve was like, when I showed him this the first time he was on the channel, he was like, Steve, who does he remind you of? I think you're the one that. Let's go to it. Let's show everybody what he looks like and see what they said. Tell them who you think he looks like.
Hey guys, welcome to Hip Hughes History.
Mr. Steve, who does he look like?
This guy. He does look familiar, but
It's like kind of like Elton John to me, but other than that, I don't know.
Someone made the statement he looked like Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah,
oh yeah, I do see that. I do see that.
Mayor.
Tom Arnold.
Tom Arnold.
Yeah.
I mean,
you know what it is? It's a Dan Aykroyd and Tom Arnold got together and a man had a baby.
Roxanne.
Hey, I'm not even gonna go there, but we get to have some. We get to have some fun with this.
We're continuing with the Constitution for Dummies series, taking a look at the First Amendment of the Bill of Rights, because we have run out of articles. So let's take a look at the original language, a few ways that you can remember them, and some historical context of that language.
Oh, before we get to him, let me get in my email. Let me get to my email. There's something someone gave me. Let's take him. Someone sent me something. Mr. Steve, what am I about to show?
Easier way to remember the 5 elements.
I'm about to show you something.
Easier for me, but I have to give credit where credit's due. Brian from the channel, Here's the Deal, is who gave me this idea to remember it easier. And it works for me, so if it works for others, awesome. But I'll let you pull it up.
All right.
Just like they do the MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, the whole, it's like you just take the each element, first letter of each element, and turn it into a word. Wrath.
There you go. The First Amendment: religion, assembly, speech, press, and petition. I mean, you got, and that's why we should. If you would like this, you can ask Steve. You can ask me. I will actually send it to Ronnie. If you would like it. Actually, what I'll do down in my community,
I can make a better one
tab.
Too.
All right.
I just did that by hand at the last second. So.
Hello, Miss Sharon Steinspring.
There you guys go. But that is the First Amendment.
I did. I thanked her. I was going to say, let me thank Heather for a while ago, but I already did. So. But anyway, thank you, Heather, for that.
Yep, same here.
Yeah,
thank you, Heather.
AC was multitasking. AC does that from time to time. All right, let's go to Mr. Tom, the lookalike of Tom Arnold with Hip Hughes history.
American history in like 5 minutes. So, students, lifelong learners, cray-cray on the internet, start your engines. That's the engines of learning. Here we go, video. So even before we approach the Bill of Rights and start looking at language, I want to talk about the idea of selective incorporation. It's really important to understand, guys, that the Bill of Rights was written for the federal government, federal law, federal action. The states, in a sense, have their own state constitutions. So it's not going to be until after the 14th Amendment, and there's language in the 14th Amendment. You can click right there and watch my 14th Amendment video that basically says that the states have to succumb to the Bill of Rights concepts of equal protection and due process. And then throughout the 20th century, the court starts selectively incorporating some of the Bill of Rights to the states.
Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or of the right of the people to peacefully assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances.
So you can see the language is really clear. There's only 44 words in there, guys. And if we look at the very beginning of the First Amendment, we can see the Establishment Clause. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. And that language becomes quite interpretable. So what the Supreme Court has done is it's begun to apply, starting in the 1920s, the Bill of Rights to state law. And this blossoms in the Establishment Clause in a case, the Everson decision in 1942. Maybe it's 1947. But either way, what the court basically did was really using some letters that Thomas Jefferson had written.
Axiom, a lot of states had their own Bill of Rights. And the reason we got the Constitution today is because certain states came back and said they wanted a Bill of Rights against the federal government. That's why we had the Constitution, because it would have been the Articles of Confederation. And we actually went over that. But that's a whole nother issue.
Into a Baptist association, I believe in Massachusetts, like in 1802, 1803, where he was asked a question about why, as president, he wasn't like proclaiming religious days and holidays. And he responded with basically the language where we hear church a wall between church and state. That was the language and the letter that Jefferson used. So the court used that letter in a sense to rationalize the intention of the Establishment Clause. So while some strict interpretationalists might say an establishment of religion means just that, like in 1830 in Massachusetts, when Massachusetts was like officially a congregationalist, established religious state, to the idea of, can I pass a law saying that we're going to say a prayer, in school? So loose interpretationalists have used the Establishment Clause intention of Jefferson and this wall between church and state to build it up pretty high. So the Free Exercise Clause, guys, basically is freedom of religion. And the court is basically adopted in kind of deciding what the language means of a strict scrutiny test. So if we're going to take away your freedom of religion, your free exercise of religion, we better have a really good reason. Like you belong to the Church of Meth. I don't think that's going to pass the mustard. I think that the strict scrutiny test would include you. You're not allowed to do that.
What? Did you want to say something, Mr. Ronnie?
No, he said you can't have the Church of Meth. I said, what? Oh, come on now. How about the
the Church of yeah, I was wondering if anyone was if either one of you was gonna get that. But yes, he does say the Church of Meth.
I thought we all belonged to the Church of Meth.
Hey, all I'm gonna say is thank God I quit before that stuff came out. Just saying.
Yeah, me too.
Well, I never started, so.
Well, yeah, I'm glad I never started.
So next is free speech, guys. Congress shall make no law abridging free speech. There's always going to be a balancing act, but there's tons of different areas of study in this, whether you're talking about student free speech or free speech during war, commercial free speech, is flag burning free speech, is obscenity free speech. There's so much interesting stuff to take a look at. You certainly probably should do that. But that would be your freedom of speech. We then have or of the press, abridging the press rights. And of course, this really goes to the idea of prior restraint. Can the federal government stop you from printing something because they deem it to be hazardous or a security risk? And that's going to be a balancing act as well. Take a look at New York Times versus the United States, a famous case dealing with the Pentagon Papers and the idea of whether we had the right to know of whether the government was lying to us or whether that was going to violate national security. You can look at the WikiLeaks case today or what Snowden is doing with information from the NSA. Too hot to handle. There's tons in there to do. You also are going to have the right of the people to peacefully assemble. This is right of assembly. This also goes to the idea of right of association. What if you join the Communist Party in the 1950s? Are you going to have the right to assemble? What if you want to get 1,000 friends to go downtown and have a march in front of city halls to free the puppy dogs? Do you need a petition? Lots of cool ones.
How many people would do a march to free the puppy dogs? How many people here would free the puppy dogs?
That's the only reason we got Pablo.
I would do a march for Pablo now. If he was in jail, I'd do a march for him, but the other one's not.
My question is, Ronnie, would you do a march for me if I was in jail? Or would you just let me rot?
I'd let you rot. I would have no worry about you whatsoever.
Steve,
would you do one for me?
Would you let Ronnie rot in jail? Would you do a march?
Ronnie. I would not let
you wouldn't let his 198-old butt sit in jail for a while?
No, he's got another 198 years to go. Can't let him waste that time in jail.
That's right. Thank you, Brother Steve.
And guys that are on my channel, I put Steve and Ronnie's channel links in the description in the chat and pinned it to the chat. So if you guys haven't subscribed to either one of these guys or both of them, please go do so. because Steve does karaoke's, and maybe here in a few months we might actually have an anniversary party of the first karaoke.
1 year anniversary.
Let's finish this up, and we'll get you.
You say what I do, AC? I do everything. I talk about how Ronnie,
you just go down, Ronnie. All you do is go down rabbit holes. You go down a lot of rabbit holes.
I certainly do.
I did the same in my chat. I put AC's. I pinned it, AC's, and make sure to go in there, hit the like for him too. And he's trying to get to 500 subscribers, and he's right around the corner.
I'm less than 150 away.
And Ronnie,
let's finish
Ronnie
this up.
Goes down some deep rabbit holes, and I don't know. I think everyone here is already subscribed to Ronnie. But
you know what? I had 274 subscribers whatever that was last week. And that night when I went to bed, I had 274 subs. I woke up the next day and got back on. I had 256.
That's YouTube for you. Because YouTube.
But guys, let's finish this up because Mr. York is going live tonight. So let's finish this up so he can actually sit back and relax just a wee bit. I'm trying to be nice to the old man.
Heavy on the mystery.
Respect your elders.
Yes. Exactly.
Interesting stuff looking at that. And then finally, not to abridge the right of petitioning the government for a redress of grievances. Your ability as a citizen to lobby your government, to tell the government through protest or letter writing or raising money or however it might be, to address your grievances, your problems from the government. So there you go, guys. 44 words, you can do that. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of the speech or of the press or of the right of the people to peacefully assemble and petition their government for a redress of grievances. Boom, 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 boom. Where attention goes, energy flows. Make sure you check out other videos down below in the descriptions. We have other channels you should be checking out, and check us out.
All right.
You know, that room he's in, that guy was in there, reminds me of my office right behind me.
We see your office. We see your entire trailer. What the heck are you talking about?
That's what I'm telling you.
And Mr. B, Mr. B, I will say this now. As much crap as I give the man up above me, I do like him, and he does a good job on some songs. Just saying.
Well, you notice that
he so good that YouTube takes his channel away from him every other month.
That's right.
Yeah, every other month. Yes, guys. First Amendment.
Every time, if I had a karaoke channel and I sang every time, they'd take it away every night.
All right, First Amendment.
First he tries to tell the truth, and now he's trying to sing. Hell no.
Hey, maybe he should sing and tell the truth at the same time. Just saying.
You can sing the truth.
Yeah.
Saying the truth.
Hey, that's not a bad idea.
That's what you can call your channel. Singing the truth. That's a good idea.
All right. You make a song about it.
Dang, guys, what did you... Let's wrap this up so we can let Mr. Ronnie have a little break before he goes live.
What time are you going, Ronnie?
Hang on just a minute. I just now noticed this. Miss Sharon Stein Spring, thank you very, very much for that wonderful birthday gift. If you want me to tell them out, I definitely will, but I don't want to do it that you're okay. But thank you, Sharon. I appreciate that. Wow, that's all I can say.
What time are you going on, Ronnie? In an hour?
In about an hour.
55 minutes. Okay.
All right. First Amendment, fellas. Let's wrap this up. First Amendment, what did you learn?
I didn't learn nothing. I already knew.
You didn't learn.
I already knew all that.
You already knew all that?
Well, except that the main one that there was for freedom of press.
Yep. Freedom of press.
I did guess religion, but
Hey, chap.
Chap, what's up, big chap?
But this,
Chap, what's up, brother? Good
I
to see
want you, and I'm going to say this now. I hope you guys learn stuff from this because I want you to know your rights. And don't take my word for it. Don't take Steve's or Ronnie's. Don't take any of it. Research this stuff yourself because we are human and I screw up from time to time. I've done it before. But guys, please know these rights. Please know your rights according to that little piece of paper that I have behind me, Steve has behind him. Ronnie's not so lucky, but that's a whole nother issue.
If I had it, I'd just use it for something other than what it was intended for. So there's no point in me having it. You know.
But
now, I might roll a joint with it or something. You never know. I'm just saying. I'm just kidding.
Yep, pretty much. But I hope everyone has a wonderful day. Go support Mr. Ronnie.
Always remember that if you don't exercise your rights or know your rights, you're gonna lose them.
Yes. Hey, Ed, and guys, please go see what Ronnie talks about tonight. I don't know if he has this man on there tonight with him. I don't know. There's another good man to go subscribe to. He doesn't go live often, but he does put out a lot of good content.
He'll be there if he got his phone fixed. I don't know if he got get your phone fixed, chap. He got mad at his phone yesterday and run over it with his truck or something. I'm not sure what happened.
But hey, maybe I'll be on Ronnie's panel tonight.
Maybe. Who knows?
Maybe
but
so.
You'll have to tune in to find out.
There you go.
But I hope everyone has a wonderful night. And please remember, be good to one another because we are in this together no matter if you're left, right, or center. And let's get the assholes out of office and use their own documents against them. Ronnie, Steve, thank you guys for coming on with me. Next week, I know of one person that I do have on here for the Second Amendment. His name, everyone might know him as Mayhem Studios. He will be here next week.
Oh, next week, not Mayhem. Oh, no.
And next week, we might also have another guest. It might be a little later in the evening. If I get the second guest, it'll probably be later in the evening. But we all love him. Most of us haven't seen. He doesn't go live very often, but he does do some prepping. That's all you're getting from me today. I hope everyone has a wonderful night. Ronnie, Steve, thank you.
I'll send you a link.
Okay.
Thank you, AC.
Much love,
Good
everybody.
night. Goodbye, and have fun tonight.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly